y'all doing? What's going on? It's the mother. I knew it, y'all. Tamar, they got in this video. Y'all have to see it. Tamar is revealing it's the mother, Evelyn. She has been the one that's been keeping all these secrets. She has been the one that has started this generational curse of all these PDFs. Men in the family doing nasty stuff to her daughters. I'm talking about Tracy, Tamar, I believe Tawanda, I believe Trina, but they ain't gonna say it. Tony, but they ain't gonna say it. But Tamar and Tracy already said the men in their family have done nasty stuff, and those were older men in their family. I'm talking about they mama age, y'all, okay? So, honey, y'all have to watch this video in its entirety because, like I said, we're gonna have to stay on the Braxton's family, and I hope they didn't do anything. Well, they already did something to Ashley, and we don't know what happened to Ashley's sister. And maybe it's a blessing that that Tracy's son, Kevin Jr., was not around the family that much. Because they mess with boys too. They will mess with, if a man will mess with a little girl, he'll mess with a little boy. Comment, I want to know what y'all think about this. Let's watch this video, react, and comment, because I got to hear what y'all got to say about this now.
Life.
How dare he try to tell me how to raise my kids after he have abandoned us? He has some nerve.
Y'all have lives to live yourself, and she can't run her life, her home, and your home.
You know what? Had you been home long enough to help me to raise them, it wouldn't be the problem. But where were you?
What did you do?
In the street,
What did you do
doing
all
whatever
day?
you were
What did you do all day long?
What did you do?
It's wild how a family can look one way on the surface, but once the truth starts slipping out, everything flips upside down. The Braxtons have always been seen as this tight, talented group of sisters, but lately people are realizing the story behind the scenes might be a whole lot darker than it looked. And instead of everyone pointing at Tamar like they always do, the spotlight is quietly sliding towards someone nobody expected. Miss E herself. Every time Tamar says anything online, folks rush in ready to call her dramatic or accuse her of doing the most. It's like she can't breathe without someone dragging her. But Tamar is finally speaking in a way that hits different. She's saying her personality, her reactions, her loudness, all of it didn't just appear out of nowhere. She's pointing straight back to her upbringing, and that confession shook the internet. Because Tamar didn't just talk about healing. She actually opened up about years of emotional weight she's been carrying.
Steal anything.
You don't. You sold men.
Who's the man that I stole?
Tony's. You slept with them a few times.
What man?
Do not get the link. Oh.
Dirty low-down ass bitch.
Oh, you're such a liar.
She explained how Miss E held onto resentment, especially toward their dad, and how growing up in that environment shaped the entire household. That kind of honesty from Tamar is rare, and you can tell she's done pretending everything was picture perfect. And let's be honest, Tamar has never been shy about letting the world see her life unfold in real time. Her relationship troubles with Vince, the issues with JR, the drama with her sisters, clashes with people in the industry. Everything has played out right in front of the fans. She never hid how messy life could get, even when it made her look bad. But this year, she cranked things up again. Tamar stirred the internet when she called out Funky Deneva, hinting someone might have tried to harm her after a night out, and even dropped allegations about connections to men tied to Tony. The internet practically froze when she said it because Tamar doesn't just speak, she drops bombs. Back during the early seasons of Braxton Family Values, all that energy made her the star of the show. People loved her jokes, her raw reactions, her iconic one-liners. She brought a spark no one else could match. But over time, every new outburst made people wonder if she'd ever slow down. Yet just when they think they've seen it all, she shakes the room again with something new. And this time, she turned the whole narrative upside down by saying Miss E might actually be the one who created the environment that made everyone so emotionally on edge. That revelation has fans looking at the family dynamic with new eyes, like they finally understand why the sisters move the way they do. Because if Tamar grew up carrying emotional wounds she never addressed, then maybe the problem child image people slapped on her was never the full story. And realizing that changes everything. People are honestly stunned right now, and a lot of folks are just worn out from Tamar's constant drama. She keeps saying she's on a healing journey, but many are convinced she's spiraling instead of growing. I've even heard people say she needs real support because they feel she drains every room she walks into. It's like they believe she doesn't recognize when she's being harsh, yet she always claims someone is coming for her. And let's be real, Tamar is close to 50, and somehow she ends up falling out with almost everybody she interacts with. That pattern alone has people saying she's not changing anytime soon. Her dramatic moments aren't shocking anymore, but fans are warning that if she doesn't calm things down, she might lose whatever positive image she still has left. But in pure Tamar style, she's not sitting back quietly while people talk about her. Not for 1 second. Instead, she's flipping the whole conversation by pointing the finger at everyone else, especially at her mother, Ms. Evelyn. Tamar is basically saying their family issues didn't start with her. They started long before she was even grown. And the wild part, she's claiming this is the first time she's fully connected her own behavior to how she was raised, which is a major thing for her to admit publicly. She's talked about watching her mother hold on to pain for years and how those grudges shaped the entire household. The biggest example Tamar brings up is how Evelyn never fully healed from the end of her marriage with Michael Braxton. That breakup didn't just affect two people. Tamar says it spilled into the way every sister learned to handle conflict and resentment. And hearing that out loud hits differently. Because think about it. Evelyn and Michael's divorce happened more than 2 decades ago after she found out he was cheating, but the anger never faded. Even now, people say the bitterness Evelyn carries toward Michael is intense, and it influenced the emotional tone of their whole family. Tamar and her sisters weren't just watching their mother be upset. They grew up absorbing all of that tension. Even Toni, who presents herself as the calm, polished, unbothered sister, has had her messy moments too. She's just smoother about it and doesn't let it explode in public the same way. But it shows the pattern didn't start with Tamar. The energy was already there, and every sister picked up a piece of it in their own way. And it gets even heavier. When Evelyn and Michael were divorcing, she allegedly made the kids choose sides. Anyone who tried to stand with their father instantly got the coldest treatment from her. That right there shows how deep her resentment ran. And according to people close to the family, this is a major reason why Evelyn and Tracy struggled to get along. Because Tracy refused to cut off her relationship with their dad.
Can I ask you something, Miss Evelyn? Do you know what her pain is? Because the only reason a person would behave in this manner,
we're not going to throw this behavior around again. We're not going to do that. She does not have a behavior problem, and that's not fair.
First of all, your finger in my face is not going to work for me.
But the name calling is going to work for me. Because I don't appreciate you keep throwing out these names. Wait. Disrespect. All I have been is disrespectful. Tamar. This is
Tracy lived closest to him in Maryland, and she kept that connection strong, no matter how Evelyn felt about it. And from what's been shared, Evelyn wasn't happy about that at all. There are even claims she held onto that anger all the way up until Tracy passed, which adds a heartbreaking layer to everything. When you look at all these pieces together, it paints a much bigger picture. One Tamar is only now starting to reveal, even if it shocks everybody listening. Tamar being the youngest in the family added a whole different layer to this story, because during all that chaos, she stuck beside her mother completely. Anything she did, anything she planned, anything she wanted to say, she allegedly ran it through Miss E first. And that created a bond that wasn't just close, it turned into something people now describe as full-on emotional dependency. That connection shaped how Tamar handled the world, and it followed her well into adulthood. But according to Tamar, the issues in the house weren't only about anger and resentment. She says Miss E loved being the loudest voice in the room and believed she was right about everything, no matter the situation. And if Tamar dared to have an opinion that didn't fit that script, her mother shut it down instantly. Miss E expected her daughters, especially Tamar, to follow her word without hesitation, like it was the only option they had. And it wasn't easy for any of the sisters to push back because their mother constantly reminded them of how she raised 6 kids alone after Michael Sr. walked away. That guilt sat heavy, especially on Tamar, who was the baby of the family. Growing up in that environment shaped her reactions, her emotions, and the way she handles conflict even today. That kind of pressure sticks with a person, and Tamar is finally admitting how much it affected her. What makes this even wilder is that even after more than 2 decades, the tension hasn't faded. Evelyn still shows a lot of anger when it comes to the past, and that frustration spills over, especially onto her daughters. Every emotional moment, every argument, every misunderstanding seems to trace back to those long-standing wounds that the family never fully healed from. And now that Tamar is speaking openly, people are actually agreeing with her. They can see how Evelyn might have unintentionally set the tone for the disrespect and emotional confusion the family deals with today. The way she reacted to her own pain seems to have trickled down into her daughters' lives, shaping how they handle resentment, loyalty, and conflict. That's a heavy thing to realize, especially when most people always assume Tamar was the one causing the drama. I even heard someone say, "I want to make a list of villains people don't even recognize as villains. And Evelyn Braxton is going at the top." That comment might sound harsh, but a lot of people feel like Evelyn represents the type of parent who never sees or admits how their behavior impacts their children. It's the kind of parent many people grew up with. Loving, protective, but also controlling, reactive, and quick to weaponize guilt. And when Tamar finally said that Evelyn's habits, emotions, and expectations shaped her in ways people never understood, it hit a lot of viewers personally. It made them rethink how much of Tamar's attitude is really Tamar being Tamar, and how much of it is learned behavior from years of trying to survive emotional pressure inside the family home. Now people are watching this play out with a whole new perspective, realizing that maybe Tamar has been carrying something much heavier than anyone realized. What's even more eye-opening is how people are now looking back at old clips, interviews, and behind-the-scenes moments from the Braxton family, noticing things they completely missed the first time. Viewers are pointing out how often Evelyn would insert herself into her daughter's issues, even when the situation didn't involve her. And every time she stepped in, the tension seemed to skyrocket instead of calming down, which is wild when you see it with fresh eyes. There were moments where Tamar clearly tried to express something real: frustration, sadness, fear, and the conversation would instantly shift into Evelyn talking about her own hurt, her own experiences. It created this pattern where Tamar's emotions never got the spotlight long enough for anyone to understand them, and people now believe that's a big reason she explodes so quickly today. When your voice is constantly overshadowed, you eventually learn to shout louder just to be heard. And this is why so many viewers are suddenly seeing the Braxton dynamic differently. They're realizing Miss E's influence wasn't just strong inside the home. It ran deep into the sisters' relationships with each other. Every disagreement seemed to come with extra layers: guilt, loyalty tests, and old wounds that weren't even part of the original argument. And once you notice that pattern, it's impossible to unsee. Even when the sisters tried to build their own lanes, you could sense the emotional pressure hanging over everything they did. Toni trying to balance her career with family expectations, Tawanda always trying to be the mediator, Trina wanting her own space, Tracy fighting to be included, and Tamar battling every emotion at once. All of it goes back to the emotional weight they carried from childhood. It's like each sister developed her own survival strategy, but none of those strategies actually brought peace. What made the situation even more complicated is how the public always assumed the sisters' issues were just normal sibling rivalry. But Tamar's recent comments made people realize the foundation was much heavier. If a parent never fully heals, the daughters often grow up thinking chaos is normal, and they start operating in the same patterns without even noticing it. That's where things get messy because it creates cycles that keep repeating. And while Tamar is the only one openly speaking about it, people are starting to notice subtle hints in the other sisters too. Little side comments, awkward pauses, moments of silence when Evelyn enters the room. Things that didn't stand out before are suddenly looking like signs of deeper emotional bruises. It shows how much was happening behind the scenes long before cameras ever showed up. Another thing viewers are bringing up is how often Miss E used her role as the strong single mother as the ultimate shield in arguments. Anytime someone tried to disagree with her, she'd remind them of everything she sacrificed, everything she endured, and everything she overcame. And while those sacrifices are real and deserve respect, it also created a situation where none of the daughters could challenge her without feeling ungrateful or disloyal. That kind of emotional power is intense, and it shapes a household fast. Now, people are questioning whether Tamar's so-called dramatic personality is actually the result of years of trying to navigate loyalty, guilt, and emotional pressure all at once. It's a new perspective that's shifting the entire conversation and making fans rethink everything they thought they knew about the Braxton family dynamic. When people talk about families who seem polished on the outside but cracked beneath the surface, the Braxtons always end up in that conversation. They carry this image of strong women who had everything under control, but once the layers started peeling back, the truth looked nothing like the picture-perfect version they tried to present. It's like they were raised to pretend everything was fine, even when the tension was loud enough to shake the whole house. And the more people rewatch old episodes and interviews, the clearer it becomes that a lot of that pressure came straight from Miss E. She pushed the idea of family unity so hard that it turned into a rule, not a natural bond. If one sister felt hurt, too bad, they had to stick together anyway. If another sister needed space, not happening. Everything was expected to stay inside the family, even when the emotional weight was way too heavy to carry. People online are saying the same thing, that Evelyn didn't just want her daughters close, she demanded it. She reportedly used guilt, sacrifice, and motherhood as the reason they couldn't ever step away from each other, even when the relationship stopped feeling healthy. And that pressure created a cycle where the sisters felt stuck instead of supported.
That she thought was right.
Pitiful lie, too.
And as long as you agree with her, she's fine. And it's the same thing with y'all. If y'all don't agree with her, she is pissed. And it's time for y'all to stop letting your mother run.
And let's talk about the part some people don't want to admit. A lot of viewers now believe the Braxton sisters don't genuinely like each other the way they claim. They love each other. That part is clear. But love doesn't always fix compatibility. You can still care for someone and clash with their personality every single day. And in this family, those clashes weren't small, they were explosive. And right in the center of that storm, Tamar. She's always been the one who speaks the loudest, reacts the fastest, and refuses to hide her emotions. And because of that, she became the easiest one to blame. Anything that went wrong, Tamar said something. Tamar reacted. Tamar made it bigger. But the more people dig into the family history, the more they see that Tamar wasn't the root. She was just the one who refused to stay quiet. Being outspoken in a household full of unresolved tension will always turn you into the scapegoat. And Tamar's personality made her the perfect target. The funny thing is, behind all the jokes and shading, she was often the only one telling the truth. She just didn't package it in a soft way. That truth hit people the wrong way, and instead of addressing the real issues, the blame kept getting pushed onto her again and again. Now people are asking the real question. Was this family truly united, or were they holding each other hostage emotionally? That's a heavy question, but one that people are finally brave enough to discuss openly. And the more Tamar speaks up, the more fans start realizing there's a lot more to this story than what we saw on TV. But what about you? Do you think Tamar was unfairly blamed all these years, or do you think she played a part in the chaos too? Drop your thoughts down below because this conversation is only getting started. And before you dip out, make sure you hit